and I'm coming to you from Brooklyn, New York. I am the musical director and violinist of the Vysotsky Dylan um, summit that occurred last February and March. And I wanted to have the band with me and wanted to introduce everybody in the band. Josh, hi. Say a few words. Where are you from?
Uh, I'm Joshua Camp. I live in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm originally from Virginia. Um, and I played keys, keyboards, and accordion, and I can't remember what else, but I'm pretty sure it was mostly keyboards.
Oren?
Hey, I'm Oren. I'm here in Brooklyn with most of us, and I played the guitar.
I'm Dimitri.
Oh yes, hi. I'm Dmitry Ishenko, and I'm from Brooklyn, New York too, right now. And I'm originally from Odessa, Ukraine, but a long time ago. And I play the electric and the acoustic bass.
Cool. And Marlies?
Yes, hello, I'm Marlies. Played keys when Josh wasn't playing keys, and organ when he wasn't playing organ, and helped with some arrangements. And I'm based in Virginia, but doing this call from New Hampshire today.
New Hampshire.
Oh,
Are you part of the
Yeah.
political thing happening there?
I can't talk it. No. No, I'm visiting a friend.
No, okay. So let's see. Our wonderful producer, Mary McBride, came to me with this project, and she had this great idea of doing a concert of Vysotsky songs in America for an American public. And I was born in Moscow. Actually, no, I was born in the Ukraine, but I grew up in Moscow. Um, and I was there for my first 8 years. And so I was familiar with Vysotsky. But, as an 8-year-old, Vysotsky doesn't really speak to, at least to this 8-year-old, didn't really speak too much. But I was aware of the impact that his songs have had on my parents, on my older sister, on many of the people around me. So I was very, very intrigued when Mary suggested we do this, and then she put Macalester College, which is in St. Paul, Minnesota, offered to host this thing, and they said, "Well, Bob Dylan's from Minnesota. Why don't we do a Vysotsky Dylan thing?" Which to me seemed like, wow, okay, this is amazing, but this is a huge, huge range of artistry because these are two giants in two very different cultures. But okay, why not? And then we decided that we were going to have some people come from Russia to sing, some people come from America to sing, and this project was just snowballing to a point where I was like, oh, I don't even know how we're going to get through this. I was asked to put together a band, and I knew that the people that I brought with me on this journey would have to be just open to anything, because we were going to have a lot of different material to cover, too much material to cover in too many different ways, and everybody was just going to have an idea of how they wanted their song to go. And I wanted a band that could be versatile, that could be basically I wanted people that I could really, really trust, because on stage that's all you have when you don't have enough time, is you just have to trust your people. So let's see. I think Oren, you were the first person that I asked, because I've known Oren for 30 years, sort of, maybe. Oren is one of the most brilliant guitarists around, and he heads a wonderful group called Elysian Fields. And he plays jazz, he plays rock, he plays whatever you want. He plays beautifully, and I knew that he would be a tremendous person, a tremendous asset on stage there to interpret all of this music. The next person I asked was Josh, because I thought I don't know Josh for 30 years, but I know him for at least 10 at this point. Is that
Pretty
right?
close, yeah, close.
And I knew that Josh could also fill in all these different roles. I knew that he was a brilliant pianist, keyboardist. So I actually met Josh playing Broadway. We played Fiddler on the Roof together, where he was the accordion player. And so I was like, oh, okay, Russian music's gonna have to have accordion, right?
That's right.
And Josh recommended that I reach out to Dmitri, and I thought that that's a wonderful, wonderful thing to do, because I wanted somebody who obviously could cover all these different bases and be familiar with all these different styles, but it was also very important to me to have somebody that was also maybe from Russia, from the Ukraine, from that area, who maybe I think that Dmitry, you are more deeply versed in your childhood upbringing than I am. I sort of just, when I was 8 years old, I came here and I kind of didn't look back, but I feel like you had more of a proper Slavic upbringing.
Yeah, I left when I was 13.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and it makes, and those 5 years make a huge difference, I think. Yeah, and Marlise came to us because she's a good friend of Mary's, and Mary said, "Oh, I've got this brilliant musician. She can play piano. She could rehearse. She's really good with vocalists." I'm like, "Oh, okay," because I don't know anything about vocalists or how to finesse a vocalist thing, and we're like, "Okay, yeah, we'll find something for Marlise to do," and Marlise ended up being key to just about every single song that we performed. So that is how this band was assembled. I couldn't have asked for a greater bunch of partners to do this thing with. So, Oren, would you like to maybe tell us about what your impressions were about this? What after this project was over? What were some of the things that you were thinking about?
I just felt. I also felt that real shock that it came together as well as it did, because I had become more and more afraid as we approached it, mostly because the Vysotsky songs were really blending together in my head. He uses a lot of the same melodic moves.
Yeah, musically it's very it's much more basic than the words.
Yeah, but it's not just that it's more basic, but that he
only knows 4 chords.
Yeah, he uses the same material many times, and sometimes it's easier to keep stuff straight when the first bit is different. Dylan is a little bit more like that.
Yeah,
it's equally simple, but it just starts on a different key.
Yeah,
typewriter or something.
Yeah.
So I was just so excited that we managed to give everything its own universe in the time that we did, and it was one of those magic. It was sort of like being in theater. All of a sudden you feel really close with these people, and everybody got to glow, and I got a great big glow, and we had the beautiful snow, and there was a sauna on top of the. No, sorry. Yes, there was a sauna.
Yeah.
There was a outdoor pool on top of the hotel, and you could be in the snow and be in the pool. And everything felt really magical.
Nothing like a hot outdoor pool to bring everybody together
with snow.
Yeah.
Thick snow.
With magical snow coming down. Yes.
Just to give everybody the scope of the thing, we ended up with whittling it down to 50 songs. There were 50 songs. I would say maybe 30 by Vysotsky, 20 by Dylan, thereabouts. Actually, that's not true, because we also had a couple of original songs. We thought it would be great for the artists who came to showcase how Vysotsky and Dylan may have influenced their own songwriting. So 50 songs for us to deal with. We had 10 artists, 5 of them coming from Russia, 5 of them coming from various places in the U.S. And we had all of Wednesday to rehearse, all of Thursday to rehearse, and a little bit of Friday to rehearse, to get these 50 songs together for 3 concerts. So that's a lot. It's a tremendous undertaking. And it's interesting that you said you talk about the camaraderie, because I was on a Zoom call with most of the singers yesterday, and that's what everybody came away from as well. The tremendous community that we all managed to forge in our 5 or 6 days together. That's kind of amazing. Dmitry, tell us about your experience with this.
Well, I just to restate what Maxime said earlier. I don't recall ever working on so much material in such a short time. That was a kind of like a blur. It became kind of a blur, but an amazing blur, because I think we got creative really fast with all the arrangements, because as Oren said, some of the songs could sound same-ish, so we had to maybe distinguish between each one, and I think we succeeded very well. And yeah, and I growing up in the old country, I was very much aware of Vysotsky. Of course, he was everywhere. He was like a national treasure. But me being young, I didn't care much for that music. I was more into Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and such Western. I kind of rebelled against whatever was going on around me, and I stayed that way for quite a while, until when I moved to the States, and I reconnected with some of my old friends from Odessa, and saw how much they're keeping Vysotsky's legacy alive by performing his songs constantly, singing them around the parties and etc. I was like, wow, there must be some kind of deeper thing to it than I initially thought. Or
people your age,
people my age, and they're still doing that. There's still like really there's very much a scene in Brooklyn and in the New York area of people getting together in these making these house concert called Kvartirnik. It's a very big thing in the former Soviet bloc. Still, and his music is very much alive. So kind of gained a whole different appreciation for it, and then culminating in our project. Well, that was a beautiful experience.
I would love to share the links to some of these concerts with some of your friends, and just to get some feedback from them as to how they thought it went. Kind of amazing.
Yeah.
Marlies, tell us about how you came in and just like became indispensable to the organization.
Sure. I think it was basically within the same hour that Mary suggested you to me, and Josh also, because I've known Josh for about 20 years. 20 years, Josh?
More than that at this point.
More than that.
Over 20 years.
Because I live in Richmond, Virginia, where Josh is from. Although we never lived in that same town together, we had friends that introduced us quickly after I moved to Richmond, and I visit New York often, of course, and I became good friends with Josh. And we have a lot of similar talents as far as pianists and and interest in what we do. But then, of course, we also have our specialties. So
Mhm.
I was extremely delighted to be part of it because Josh and I could collaborate. It was really a lot of fun for me on that end. But then after meeting everyone in the band, I was even more delighted. I had so much fun. I had also was I knew Vysotsky because I had a bandmate who was obsessed with Vysotsky for a while, and when we were going on tour, we were just blasting Vysotsky for long drives. No idea what he was talking about, of course, but we had listened to his music. We loved his voice, and we had looked him up and saw what he, we got the feeling of what he was talking about, but we never, just didn't understand it. But we were so I had we had a Vysotsky, I had a Vysotsky phase already through my bandmates in Biorhythmo, and I just love some, especially the oompa oompa music. I can really get into that, and I don't have a lot of opportunity to play that music, so I was extremely excited, um, and to learn more about him and his legacy, and to collaborate with the singers was a lot of fun. I especially enjoyed changing one of the Vysotsky songs into a bossa nova, which I
That's
thought
right. Right.
because I was working with the singer Laura Ann, who's my partner in crime here in Virginia, and we do a lot of Latin music together. So it was just like when we were in those 3 days of making everything happen, come together uh, in the rehearsal, it was just like, oh, why don't we just since we obviously knew you were open to it, Max, we were like, oh, let's just make it something different so we can have
I
some
remember
very
that bossa nova thing kind of came together very quickly.
yeah.
You guys had something, but then when you realized that there was a percussionist who was well versed in Brazilian music, I feel like all of a sudden this brilliant idea really took off.
Oh my gosh, the percussionist was amazing. Yeah, exactly. Um, he was the best, and we're still in touch with him. Like we want to play another show. He was extremely versatile.
Andrew
Yeah,
Gillespie.
Andrew Gillespie. Yeah, he was amazing. Yes, that helped a lot, and I like doing string arrangements, so I was really excited to just throw some really quick down for that, and it was a lot of
It was a beautiful
um,
arrangement.
it was a lot of fun working with Valentina. We got to, especially me, you, and her, like got to really hash out some arrangements, particular songs, and I just love the music so much, and the arrangements we were working with, and musically speaking, it was very fulfilling, and it's like just working with everybody. And I think. Well, I never met Oren. I knew of Oren. I had heard his name. Maybe we had met in passing when I lived in New York, but it was great to play with him, and Dimitri I had seen because of Josh. I probably had met him, but I know I'd seen videos and because of his work with Josh. And yeah,
Yeah,
it was just it was great fun, and all the singers, especially Boris and everybody. It was a great time
yeah, yeah.
to
Kind
try
of
all
a
the different
whirlwind.
styles, and it was terrible. I got very sick, like right in the
That's
middle of rehearsal,
right. That's right.
and
Oh,
I was
gotcha.
so angry.
I
It was like
remember
the
that.
worst fever, and
You were like kind of like out for the count, but like propped up and play your thing, then lay back down.
I remember feeding you a lot of Advil that day.
I was rolling around in a ball. Yeah, it was terrible.
Was that the
So
Friday night
it was an
concert?
extra intense week for me. But I really, it was kind of fun in a way that it was overwhelming. And then I guess in a way, in the end, that everything came together and it worked out. Yeah, there were a lot of songs that sounded the same. So there was many times where Josh and I are on stage, and because of the language, not understanding, because a lot of the songs would be translated into English maybe differently sometimes by certain
Mhm.
people, or we were referring to them by. We weren't all on the same page with the titles of the songs. That's for sure.
That's
True.
yeah.
Just
Yeah,
because of like either we're saying them in Russian, and if it's an easy enough Russian word, we could roll with it. But
I
if we
think
were
there was a
saying
there
them,
was a there was a complicated system of numbering of the songs that I think
That's right.
Oren really insisted on because we couldn't, so there were the translations of the songs,
Yeah.
the title translations, then
That's right.
the songs in Cyrillic, the songs in English, but no translation.
Yeah.
So for Oren, it was kind of like, okay, we're doing N15.
Yeah. We had
What key is that in?
we had the number system with Oren, and then ultimately I'd be yelling to you, Max, or to Dimitri, like, "What song is this?" But and as a thing, even if we started, I know Josh and I definitely, I think each of us had a moment where we just thought we were playing the right song in the beginning, and we weren't.
Oh
But
yeah.
we made it. We made it happen. We were the similarities in some of the songs that which we didn't change the arrangements. A lot of them were very arranged that it was easier to know, but some of the songs that all started the same were hard. So
Yeah.
that was the most musically challenging part, just to figure out which song we were on at the moment. But
Well, to interrupt, I would also add the fact that the keys kept changing a lot
yeah,
Yeah,
for the
that's right.
singers
We could
to
never really
add to
settle
the
on
yeah,
which key these four chords should be in.
yeah. So there's definitely times when I remember the moment when I came in a half step off,
Yes.
very exposed part, and I just looked at Max and he was like,
Didn't I turn around and give you like the correct chord chart?
you basically threw
You had like
me the
yesterday's
chart with
chord
the
chart.
correct key. Yeah, you just threw me a chart with the correct key.
Yeah. I actually remember finding out that the two of you guys have a history that you know each other, because I was like, oh, okay, there's gonna be two keyboard players.
Oh, that's right.
Josh, do you know this woman Marlise? And he's like, Marlise. It was great. It was a great coincidence that you guys
Yeah.
uh,
Well, we had
are such good friends.
Marlise and I had a very absurd phone call because we actually talk fairly frequently about our projects, and I said, "Oh, I'm going to be in Minneapolis around the same time you are. Oh, what festival are you? We didn't realize
Oh
it
my
was the
God, really?
same project. We were like, "Oh, that's great. We'll be in town at the same time."
Crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah.
Josh, tell us about your impressions.
My impressions. Well, I mean, going back to, I mean, I love the fact that I have all these connections with Marlise, with you, with Dimitri. Oren was a known legendary musician in New York that I'd never worked with, but the fact that all of these worlds that I either knew about or have a lot of history with are all coming together. And I certainly did not know who Vysotsky was beforehand, but yeah, that whole aspect really made it made the challenge, like the challenge. I feel like if maybe I didn't have all those connections, this would have felt a lot. I would have had a lot more anxiety going in than I did. But kind of going back to what you were saying about trusting everybody, I was like, I trust this. This is going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was, even once we got in, I was like, wow, I didn't know it was going to be. I thought it was going to be hard, but this is another level.
I think every one of us had a meltdown moment at one point or
Yes.
another.
You were very zen. I was very impressed with your ability to.
My meltdowns were in private.
You had the private ones, yeah. The rest of us were way public.
So let's see. I wanted to maybe talk about the four Brooklynites got together maybe
Oh yeah,
twice
that's true. Yeah,
at
we did. Yeah.
Oran's club, which is an amazing place called the Owl Parlor in Lefferts Gardens in Brooklyn. I wanted to give them a sense of what they were in for, with my little Excel charts with classical chord chord names and stuff. And it was frustrating to me because I felt like I wanted to get as much prep done as possible, but there's really no way to get anything to dot all the I's and cross all the T's for something like this, when I knew that once the singers arrived, things would change. Songs would get switched, keys would get changed, songs would get turned into bossa nova or whatnot. But Oren, do you want to maybe talk about those initial couple of sit downs when we were like, okay, this is sort of how this one goes. It makes more sense with somebody singing, but let's just try it.
Yeah, those were essential days because, like you said, everything else went by so extremely fast. I'm grateful we had that moment. I just remember, kind of trying to focus on how we could, deploy our forces so that at we weren't all like answering the vocal at the same time. But of course, we weren't all there. But
Yeah.
that those try to get trying to organize the response, uh, an organized response. Like what is that? Like a disaster relief. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember focusing on that and just being very impressed with everybody's musicianship.
Yeah, in many ways, it was kind of like one of those corporate weekend retreats where you do team building exercises. I mean, I feel like
That's
that's
a
kind
good
of
one.
that
That's a
was
good one.
the main purpose of those rehearsals was just for us to be familiar with ourselves, because the singers come and go, but we're there
Yeah,
behind everything,
that's a
right?
good way to put it. Yeah, that was our trust fall moment. That was I trust you.
I trust you, man. Um, would Josh and Marlise, would you talk about the different instruments that you guys, because there was a real dance happening between the two of you in the keyboard stations,
Yes,
and
very literal, very
sometimes
literal dance.
it wasn't clear who was on what. Um, but what instruments do you guys have up there?
Uh, let's see. There was piano. There was organ. Well, more than one. What did we have? We had two different organ station or keyboard stations, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Accordion. What else did we have? Was there percussion in there at some
You
point?
had, I think you had some sort of like a pedal.
Yeah, I had a little keyboard with a lot of effects and sort of loopy atmospheric kind of things. And then we had a more straightforward organ,
Uh-huh.
the one we all have. What's the one? Nord, the Nord,
Lord, yeah.
the Electro Nord, and then piano and
Yeah. So
accordion
we
that we rented in Minneapolis because you can do that in Minneapolis.
That's right. Yeah, choice of accordion, I believe.
He gave me a range of accordions I could have rented. Yes.
How did you guys choose who was going to play what?
Well, some of it was our skill sets, or I mean, we overlap in some ways, but in other ways, I mean, I would, I don't know, Marley, she could talk. I mean, one obvious one is I play accordion and she doesn't. So if it was something that I played accordion, you were usually on piano or organ, right?
Yes. Yeah, and then of course Josh is country piano man, and I am not skilled in those those licks. So anything that was more leaning to rock or country was Josh, and then I guess anything that was more leaning to classicals I was doing.
Yeah,
Like
you were reading like some of those piano lines I'd written out.
yeah,
Yeah.
um, and then on the with the versatility I mean Josh's station with all the sounds. I mean we were using that to have those atmospheric, but also just using different synth sounds and adding. Yeah, that was awesome when especially songs with and that's his world. He's got all the pedals and different loopers, and then the Nord was versatile because we could use the organ, but we could also use like harpsichordy sounds, or we
That's
could
right.
use, which was really nice for some of the arrangements. It was really nice to be able to have that harpsichord shine through, and also the Rhodes the electric piano sound.
Mhm.
That so yeah, we it really helped to have a wide variety of palette to choose from, because essentially, in that respect, the band would have been fine with just a bass guitar and violin. Like now we get to sort of with those options of sound, we get to sort of put the icing on the cake and be collective and creative. So that was a lot of fun on those songs that we could
Yeah,
be using that
Yeah.
part. And, I didn't
that
have
really widened the palette of what we were doing.
didn't
Yeah.
And so and there's also a relief with those songs for us because then it wasn't, even if maybe we lost our place in the music, we didn't have to follow those songs. We're just mainly just listening and trying to create some kind of layer and some type of background to add to the arrangement.
The burden of following the actual songs was on Dimitri.
Yes,
Yeah. Good. He was an
but
anchor for sure.
Dimitri had no problem following the song.
Yes, and Dimitri, I feel like you were also sort of the conduit to the Russian speakers. My Russian is pretty elementary. People look at me when I start speaking in Russian, and they're like, "Are you a little boy trapped in a big man's body?" So I reverted to English very quickly with Russian artists, but I sort of it fell upon you to really, if they needed to express themselves uh, more clearly in Russian, you were the one that they expressed themselves to, and I think that was a really, that was a great asset for us.
Yeah, and a couple of them I knew from that scene I was telling you earlier
That's
about.
right.
Um, the friend that I was especially referring to, Eugene Sekirsky.
Mm-hmm.
We were friends in Odessa, and when I first moved to New York, I stayed at his house for a couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
rented a room there, and that's where I saw all that stuff. And now, at this point, he's been organizing very successful festivals. At least twice a year, he's got his own festival called the Tangle Festival, or Переплет in Russian, which is basically a weekend of, it's once in the winter, once in the early fall, which is supposed to celebrate the arts and music of the ex-Soviet
Mm-hmm.
countries, and so a lot of these artists, like Olga Chikina, for example, I've seen her many times. She always flies in from Russia, but I've seen her many times and met her in those festivals. So it was kind of seeing some familiar faces. Also, Lev Freeman, who is the Minneapolis native there, but he's also a big part of those festivals. So it was.
Lev was actually a huge help to us because he was somebody that was part of the organizing thing in a in an auxiliary way, but ended up being the person that, oh well, you should talk to this person, you should invite this person, this is how you reach out to this community. He was very central um, in the people that we chose to come out to do these, and I'm always been very grateful to him for playing that role.
He's very active. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems that way. So we played 3 concerts, and 2 of them, the Friday and the Sunday concert, were at McAllister College, and it was the small band that we see here. And then the Saturday concert was at the Museum of Russian Art. Is that right? Museum of Russian Art, which is a beautiful, like, deconsecrated church in Minneapolis with some amazing artwork. And for that one, we were able to expand the band to include Andrew Gillespie, who is the percussionist, who I think Oren had introduced me to, and he was tremendous because he just knew what to do at every song, whatever the song is. He was there with a tiny tiny array of percussion instruments, he knew how to add exactly what was needed. And on top of that, we also had Bradley Shermock, who played trumpet and flugelhorn, and Mary Alice Hutton, Leif Peterson, Benjamin Bergdorf, and Jane O'Hara, who I found as a string quartet to augment what we were doing. I actually, in doing all the different things that in putting all this together, the last thing that I was thinking about was what I was going to play. So a lot of times I was just kind of like, oh, okay, I'll just fill in little fiddly stuff here, which is not my forte, fiddly stuff. But for these for the Saturday concert, I was able to really, it was a little bit more structured, and we had a little bit of rehearsal for it, and I was able to write some really nice charts for these people to play, because I couldn't expect all of them to. Oh yeah, I'll just play something. Andrew was somebody who could just play something, but everybody else needed some sheet music. Could you guys tell me what it felt like to sort of open the band up for that evening? Anybody?
Well, I mean, I'd just love to pay you a compliment on your one of your superpowers. I don't know if people know this, but your string arrangements, particularly in the pop music world, are just some of the greatest arrangements around. So that was very easy to sometimes distractingly so. Sometimes I was so transported by your arrangements. I was, oh wait, I gotta keep playing. I mean, in a good way. So I'll start off there. I don't know if anyone wants to add.
Thank you.
Yeah, same here. I was blown away. And also, didn't it come together really fast, Maxime? Didn't you do them like
some of them I was able to do before we got to Minneapolis, but I think the most ambitious one, which is a song called Tak Dimna, So Smoky, which is a weird Russian reggae tango, if such a genre exists. I believe that I finished that one the night before the rehearsal.
Yeah,
that was a little stressful. But I think, was it Leonard Bernstein who said that in order to have something genius, you need a great idea and not enough time. I feel like we were living proof of that theorem.
There's no second guessing. That's for sure.
It felt so raw. It felt so. I mean, nobody. Oren and I are veterans of these productions by an amazing producer in New York. His name is Hal Wilner, who we unfortunately lost at the early stages of the pandemic. And that was Hal's thing. Hal had everybody's number, and he would, I think he put it together a bunch of concerts of the poetry of Edgar Allan Poe, as read by Will Ferrell, or really out there stuff. And he would have a band behind that would just throw together the musical accompaniments to whatever the talent had in mind for interpreting their song or their poem. And his thing was just, let's throw these people together in the room and see what happens. And sometimes it failed. It never failed badly, but sometimes it failed spectacularly. But when it worked, which was quite often, because he always put amazing people together, it worked extraordinarily because it was so new and so raw. Can you speak about that a little bit, Oren?
It's hard not to think about Hal at those moments.
Absolutely, it was total Hal.
Yeah, for sure. His spirit, lives through those that work with him. And I don't know. There's that thing in Shakespeare in Love. If anyone saw that movie, where they're talking about the theater, and they say, and everything always turns out, everything always turns out okay. How? It's a miracle. I think that it is a mystery. I think so.
Mhm.
It's just a mystery. So
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think you're right. You have to have the right people. Okay?
You have to, yeah, you have the right people that you trust. Yesterday, we were talking about this with singers, and I basically said, you know, I knew that I could do as much planning as I could, but I knew that things needed to be open because that's where the magic would happen. All of a sudden we there's one idea and it catches fire, and that's how the song is going to go. And the trick was to bring together people who were open to whatever the moment would present.
Mm.
And I couldn't have asked for a better group of compatriots for that. Marlise, is anybody watching this? Are there any comments or any questions that
Um,
anybody has?
no.
No, not a one.
Let's see. Sorry, I might be looking at the wrong thing. I was gonna add. Oh, there is one. It's in Russian though. So,
It's in Russian.
yeah.
Oh no.
Let me see if I can figure it out. I was gonna add to that because I was gonna say like it was a lot of fun with the singers. Um, we had kind of the veteran people who sing all the time and perform, like Olga Kirill, and then we had Dennis and Boris, who it was just so exciting for them, and I think that raw energy helped us all, and who cares if we miss a note or something because it was just, that really helped push the energy forward, and everyone was so excited, and especially when the Russian singers had to sing in English or sing, do the Dylan songs. I could tell they were maybe apprehensive or maybe nervous of the pronunciation, but it was all very exciting to hear them, and vice versa when like when Lorianne had to sing the exercise song, and she studied her
Right.
butt off to be able to pronounce this in Russian, and she was nervous, but that energy of doing it the first time, and basically that whole week was just like, since we did different songs each concert, everything was the first time,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
we got to play through a couple songs twice. I was really hoping for one more concert too, so that we could, have that one
Yes.
concert. We're like, oh, I know this song. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we
But
did do "Blowing in the Wind" twice, but
we did do Blowing
We
in the Wind
did too.
twice.
Yeah.
But
But we never actually rehearsed that. We just played it twice
no,
in front of them.
that's true. That's true. I wonder who was more nervous, the Russians interpreting Dylan or the Americans interpreting Vysotsky.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it was equal, but different. I
Yeah.
definitely sensed some anxiety from the Russian performers.
One,
But
one,
yeah.
one
I've
of
got a
the
question here.
yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, here's a question. Um, question. How has the audience responded to the performances, especially considering? Oh wait, sorry, I have a big lag here. Especially considering the diverse cultural backgrounds of the artists and the uniqueness of the project.
That's a good question. We had no idea who was going to come, and Minneapolis, St. Paul have a strangely. It's a small uh, community of Russians and former Soviet bloc countries, but it's quite vibrant. I mean, they have like Lev is part of a scene where people get together and they the reason we were at McAllister College is because they have a very vibrant Slavic department, which I think is rare in America in these days. So there were a lot of people there who may have been connected to that community. There were a lot of people there who were McAllister kids who were just like, oh, I want to check this out. The concert on Saturday at the Russian Museum of Russian Art, I think, was sold out. Wasn't that many people, but I would imagine that they walked away pretty happy. I thought that was a pretty amazing concert. How did they respond? I think it was just as new for them as it was for us. So hopefully they picked up on some of that, on that improvisatory energy that we had, because we were giving them something brand new to us. Did you guys get a sense of what the audience was going through?
Well, I mean, I wanted to point out we had a funny sort of, I had an interesting revelation, which Dimitri sort of warned me about where the audience would be clapping, what the stress beats would be.
Yeah.
And it didn't occur to me until this project, because I work with Dimitri and in a lot of Eastern European music, that, you know, in front of those audiences, the 1 and the 3, the clapping on the 1 and 3 is what I'm talking about, as opposed to the clapping on the 2 and the 4. That was fun. It was fun to watch, but it was a little. Let's just say I'd never played American music, which is on the 2 and 4, in front of an audience that claps on the 1 and 3. I've only played Eastern European music to those audiences, so that was a revelation. But going back to the enthusiasm, it was obviously much appreciated that they wanted to clap along. It just was a little difficult to sometimes find the groove, let's say.
Yeah. In the concerts that did not involve Andrew Gillespie and percussion, and I was basically holding down the rhythm with a upright bass.
Yeah.
And the clapping would start on the Dylan songs. The clapping would start at 1 and 3. I had to really focus hard to keep it going.
Bad. We should have really had Andrew there for the whole thing. He really.
But Dimitri, I'm glad you warned me, because I did. You know, I think I would have been really thrown off if you hadn't warned me.
Yeah.
A lot of countries in the world do that. France.
1 and 3.
Yeah. It's only in Japan, in my experience. In Japan, they really clap on 2 and 4 really hard.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Interesting.
We have one more question here.
Okay.
We sort of hit on this before. Sorry I didn't see this question sooner. What were some of the most significant challenges faced by the band in arranging and performing the music of Vysotsky and Dylan?
Challenges
that we haven't already addressed, I guess. I mean, we've talked about
the
amount of songs and
too many songs. Too many songs, not enough time.
Yeah.
I would say that's probably the main one. Some people, Valentina.
Last minute key changes. That was also a challenge.
Key changes was several. Valentina was very smart about the songs that she chose. I think very few of those songs were songs that I could find recordings of Vysotsky singing. There were songs that he had written for other people, maybe for his wife, who was a French actress and singer, or maybe for films and stuff like that. And a lot of them, I think, had a lot of them were his words and somebody else's music, which added a layer of complexity to the whole thing. So for some of those, we were no longer in the 4 chords, and really had to get to another state of musicianship for. Those were challenges, but those were also kind of like, welcome relief from the umpas, for me at least. Actually, one significant little story I remember is one of her songs, which was a 4 chord song, was called White Waltz, Billy Buds, and there were several different versions of it, and we had not been able to come to which version we were going to do. Like I had a chord chart for one version. She was going to do it a different way, and the song was very long. It was a very long poem, and there's a lot of cut and paste kind of things. And I remember we had to get together because it just wasn't working out in the rehearsal room. We had together in my hotel room with Valentina and Oren, and you know, try and figure out how this song works, and it really it took a while. Remember that, Oren? You were wearing your sauna hat and little else. But we had to we had to figure out how this very long song could be structured, and that was a bit of a challenge. I thought that was actually one of the highlights of the concerts was that song was really, really amazing.
She has a hell of a voice, that gal.
Yeah. Another Valentina story is the one Dylan song that she chose was "Mama, You've Been on My Mind," and somehow with our 50 songs that we had to do, that song just fell through the cracks.
That's right. That was kind of a last minute.
We had planned to get to it in the sound check for the Museum of Russian Art show, but that was one of the most hectic sound checks I think I've ever been a part of, because our poor sound engineer and his army had to basically build the stage, make sure all the wiring is happening. It was a big production in a place that doesn't normally have concerts like that, and so there's really no rehearsing that was going to happen in any way. And the little bit that was happening, everybody was clamoring to do their song. It was kind of hectic, and then maybe about 15 minutes before showtime, Valentina runs up to me with these big eyes, and she's like, "Maxime," I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Dylan, the Dylan song." I was like, "Oh my god!" And we went backstage, and with I think like one guitar, just ran through with everybody in the band, ran through what it might be like, and I think the first time we hit it live was the concert. And and I listened to the recording of it yesterday. It came out pretty darn good.
Is it good?
Yeah, all things considered.
The memory I have of that is distinct. Is that was the point where we had so many songs crammed into our heads that we had talked it down, and literally 5 minutes later on stage, and I'm like, "What did we just talk about?" Like it just didn't go in at all.
Yeah,
that's my memory of. Like, I think I hit my limit. I can't put any more music in my song.
We have a couple more minutes. I wanted to there's a couple more questions.
Okay, great.
For the American musicians, did you have any connection to Vysotsky's music before this project? And for the Russian musicians, did you have any connection to Dylan's music before this project?
I think you guys addressed that already. I think Vysotsky was somebody, Marlies, you were aware of.
I was aware of, yes.
Oren, you didn't know. Oh, you didn't know. You didn't, right? And Josh, you didn't know.
No.
Dimitri, you did know, but did you ever play?
I knew of. It was all around me. I actively rejected it as a child. I was much more familiar with Dylan when I was growing up, as far as knowing the songs. Yeah.
And for me, I was aware of his importance without really knowing anyone. I guess I would probably know some of the really more famous songs, which we ended up not performing. But I was not aware of. I mean, I went on iTunes and I bought a lot of Vysotsky albums, and really immerse myself in the 2 months before the show. And as for Dylan, you know, the the amazing thing about Bob Dylan is that you need to know the words, because the songs rarely are the music rarely adheres to its own forms. A lot of times it follows the words wherever the words are. So some phrases are 5 measures, some phrases are 7 measures, and you just really got to know, because it's all about the words. And I think unless you're Bob Dylan or somebody traveling with Bob Dylan on that endless tour, it's probably very difficult to American, Russian, doesn't matter, to really know how those songs go, unless you've memorized the lyrics of those songs, which can sometimes go along for quite a while.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to talk about playing Dylan?
I would just the song that just immediately hit was Ramona, which Laura Ann, of course, destroyed. It's amazing, but it's that kind of song that's it comes from the folk tradition. It's like almost like a ranchera or something, where it's 3 chords, but it's all about the phrasing, and you really have to know when the chord change. The chord change is not going to be where you think it is.
Yeah,
and it's beautiful that way. It's you wouldn't want to if you straightened it out, it would just lose the magic.
Mm-hmm. Do we have one more song? One more.
Yeah, one more question was what you sort of talked about, but maybe you can expand on more real quick. Can you discuss considerations behind the choice of instruments for each song?
Well, I mean, we knew that we needed a bass. How did you choose, Mitchie? How did you choose acoustic versus electric? I think you mostly played acoustic.
Completely intuitively, and at the last minute, there was and no pre-planning for it. I know some people requested electric bass. I think Oren, you requested electric bass on a couple of things that we were doing with Jennifer Charles of Elysian Fields. That was probably the most specific thing I got for as far as the bass is concerned, but otherwise it was just fully intuitive and very, very spontaneous. Yeah.
And Oren, you were switching between your Telecaster and a Gibson acoustic. Is that right?
Yeah. They had rented us a couple nice acoustic guitars.
Remember how the Russians were fighting over those guitars?
I was fighting with the Russians for the guitars.
I think we had 3 Gibson guitars that were rented for us, and for us, it's like,
how many 10 guitar play? I mean, rhythm guitar players. Yeah.
And but for some of those Russians, that may have been, they don't get to play a quality Gibson instrument like that often. So and for them, it was like for me playing a Strad,
And they need, a lot of them really felt the need to be strumming and singing somewhere, and so they were always disappearing. Whether or not it was, this is the best guitar, it was like, well, guitar we could be musical with. So they'd gone as far away from the stage as possible, so you had to go running for them.
But how did you choose electric or acoustic?
I mean, I guess it's just a question of whether or not you needed a screwdriver or a mallet. Just what kind of points did the sound have to have at the end of it? If you needed to break through a little bit,
Yeah. For me, I didn't really have much of a choice. I just played violin, but sometimes I would use some pedals, which I'd really love to do, and that was for songs that just required a little bit more psychedelic sounds, or just were a little bit freer in their structure. And I think we already talked about Josh and Marlise, how you guys would fight over the xylophone.
Right? Yeah. Well, I wanted to mention that the concerts will be shown by the American Center in Moscow soon. There's no set date, but I guess they'll make an announcement on their Facebook and YouTube channels. And yeah, we're at the end of our discussion.
Okay. I wanted to thank everybody who tuned in for this, and I really want to thank you guys sitting in front of me for making this the most memorable experience for me. I don't know how I could have done it without every single one of you. So
Oh,
thanks for
thank
that.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Likewise. I've had
Yeah.
so much.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.
Woo!
Yeah.
All right.
That was fun.
Yeah. Good to see everybody. See everybody.